From the Pacific Northwest to around the world, you are about to powerfully connect with Angela Ray.
Hey there. Greetings and salutations. Angela Ray here with the power to connect. It's good to see you again. How you been? How you been? You've been staying safe? You've been feeling good? You've been out in the sun, enjoying the summer? What are the kids up to? I want to know. But guess what? Today we have a fabulous person to chat with. Dominique Williams is a cardiologist. And if anyone out there is thinking about going to medical school or what sort of specialty they might want to consider, let's talk to somebody who's been down that road and learn what her journey has been like. Because for anyone, going to medical school is just quite a lot of work. But to specialize as a cardiologist, it's even more than that. So, Dominique, so good to have you join us today. Welcome to the Power to Connect. We're excited to connect with you today about medical stuff. And, you know, I last year was in the hospital with cancer. They finally figured out what was wrong with me after 3 years of, And when I survived the hospital stay itself, I came out and I said, I'm going to do a one-woman show. And then I decided not to do that, and it morphed into this podcast. And I just want to say how much I appreciate folks in the healthcare industry, especially during this time of COVID. You know, I was in the hospital 3 times during the time of COVID, nothing to do with COVID, having nothing to do with it, everything to do with this cancer and the way it was showing up. So having great doctors on your side is so critical. And Dominique, talk to us about your journey and what made you even want to consider the medical profession.
Oh, absolutely. So before we get started, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to share my story. So I'm a cardiologist, and I specialize in cardio obstetrics, which is a upcoming field in cardiology where we take care of women who have heart disease and are help them throughout their pregnancy. So we're talking about high-risk cardiac disease with pregnancy. But what interests me in the medical field, it started back when I would say middle school, and my mother was a registered nurse. So I was always interested. I had a little bit of insight into the medical field, but not much. And so in middle school, I actually started volunteering in the hospital during my summer breaks. So a couple weeks here and there, I did physical therapy, multiple different rotations. And the more that I was exposed to the environment, the more I grew to love it. And so when it was time for me to go to high school, I applied to a high school in the city of Houston called DeBakey High School, which was focused on students who wanted to go into the healthcare field. And
let's tell everybody who DeBakey is.
Yes. So Michael Lee DeBakey is a world-renowned cardiothoracic surgeon. A wonderful individual. He has, pioneered a lot of the surgeries that we see currently right now in the field of cardiovascular disease. I actually had the opportunity to meet him as well before he passed away. But it was through this high school that he founded in Houston, as well as through scholarships that he made available to students, that I was able to pursue a career in medicine and went on to become a cardiologist.
That is amazing. I mean, it starts off with family, and you seeing what mom's doing, and, and then it just has this lovely flow of there was a school that allowed you to focus specifically on the healthcare profession. These high schools that can be specialized they are very important. I'm learning. And this is really, what a great opportunity. So from 9th grade, so were you there from 9th grade until you graduated?
So 9th grade until 12th grade. But, the interesting thing, and this is what I found a lot along my journey, is that every step, I didn't exactly know what I was getting into. It was kind of almost as if I was stumbling upon things, if that makes any sense. So I stumbled into learning about the medical field. And then I stumbled into finding out about this high school when I was in middle school through overhearing a conversation between other students whose parents were physicians. And then I applied, and then I stumbled onto hearing about this program to help students become doctors from having a conversation with a couple of kids in English class. So it's not like any of this was planned out. It's not like anyone grabbed my hand and carried me on the way.
But time out. It was planned out. It was planned out by the maker.
Exactly.
God, the Father, the maker.
It was planned out by the maker
above. So every time you said something was boom, he meant for you to overhear that because he knew you would hear it.
Yes.
Know what I'm saying? Some people, they're too busy. They're not listening.
Yes.
You're hearing things. And he knew that you would follow the path that he had for you. And you did. You all, please listen to this. Dominique is talking about powerfully connecting. She listened, she watched, she learned. Folks didn't know she was listening to them, but she was taking it all in, powerfully connecting, listening, connecting. Dominique, I'm just
no. And so that's what I was, and I think if anything, I would say to young people is to keep your ears open and keep your mind open. Because I had no idea that one step would lead to the next, that would lead to the next. I just heard about it, looked into it, took advantage of the opportunity. Boom, another door open. Did the same thing. Boom, another door open. And continue to have faith and pray. And don't, by no means, there were times where I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Am I cut out for this? Like, this is not for me. I don't know anyone personally who's a doctor, doctors don't look like me.
So doubts will happen. You have to push through, which is what you do.
And so, but I continue to push through and just kind of roll with the punches, so to speak. And here I am today. And I honestly think, I don't know. I know that this was all orchestrated by my creator, by God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every little step. And if you're someone who's listening to us and, you are not, let's say we are both Christians and we're talking from that perspective. I know some people talk about the universe, but the point is listen, keep listening, keep being curious and associate with a variety of people. Not just this group over here, but make friends with all kinds of people. And I talked, Dominique, about how it is important to impress people along the way, because those are, I call them godmothers and godfathers who will help to propel your career and help to guide you. And so the maker above will send the correct godmother or godfather to do that. Continue with your amazing story.
That is 100% correct. So I went to DeBakey High School from 9th grade to 12th grade. And at this point, in high school, we were not just exposed to medicine, but also dentistry. But my knowledge of the medical field was still limited. And so I thought, okay, well, I can become a nurse, because at that point, my mother was a nurse, but I didn't think that I could become a doctor because I didn't know many doctors or any doctors that looked like me, let alone a Black person and let alone a Black woman. So I thought that was out of my reach. And when I would tell people that I knew personally that I wanted to be a doctor, people would say things like, why don't you just be a nurse?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
And
and I don't think they meant it in any harm, but I think it was a more so projecting their fears onto me, saying like, you do know being a doctor is hard. Right.
But that's key what you just said. And we need to have a little bit of a discussion about it. And it is that people who love you, friends and family, they may not always give you the best advice. They may not, because they don't know. They don't know. And they're scared for you. So as Dominique is saying, this is called projecting. Understand when someone is projecting their stuff onto you, and be able to discern that. And please make the decision for yourself. This is about what choice do you want to make about the life that you want to lead.
Right. Right. And so, you know, I carried that with me, and that led to self-doubt and things of that nature. However, there was always a small voice inside of me, kind of like a spirit, like a fire that just like couldn't put out, that just kept saying, there's more, there's more.
For you.
For
there's
me.
More.
And then I was in my junior year of high school, 11th grade, sitting in English class, and two Indian kids, who parents were doctors, were talking about this scholarship to go to medical school. And if you applied and you got into the program, it would be a scholarship for college, as well as admission to medical school and a scholarship for medical school, provided that you met certain criteria.
Wow.
And so I put my pen down and I started to slowly listen more and more. And then I started writing down what they were saying. I wasn't engaging in the conversation with them, but I just started writing it down. And then I looked into it. You know, I went to the counselor, like, what is this? Tell me more about it. And then the next time I was in class, I slowly started to, you know, speak to them and kind of like start talking to them to continue to get more information, because obviously even though we were in the same class, they had more knowledge of resources than the group of people that I normally spoke to. And so I realized in that moment in high school that in order for me to continue to excel and move forward, there were going to be times when it was going to be important for me to change up my circle. And
let's stop there. That's awesome what you just said. So we're talking about she at a young age discovered that I need to powerfully connect with other groups.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was your age, I was doing something similar, you know, positively, the connecting powerfully, with certain groups. And, you know, and it moves. That's what you're talking about. And it moves. You know, you got this information from that group. And I love that you are eavesdropping. That might be my favorite thing, that you are eavesdropping, which means your mouth was closed and your ears were open. So we all need to do a little bit more of that. The mouth is closed, and the ears are open. But that's what I'm talking about. Okay, keep going, Dominique.
So I found out about the program. I applied for the program and I was accepted. So senior year of high school, I had signed a scholarship to be in a program where I went to the University of Houston for 4 years on a scholarship. And then I went to Baylor College of Medicine for my MD on a scholarship.
And if you don't know anything about hospitals and medicines and medical facilities and whatnot, Baylor University medical facility is one of the best in the world.
Correct.
So she went to the best.
Mm-hmm. So that was a blessing in itself, because I went to a very good medical school, which then in turn opened up more doors, because now when it was time for me to take the next step in my journey, I had a very well-known, well-respected medical school underneath my belt. So then I was able to even apply to even more, well-known institutions across the United States.
So she gave herself a great platform. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did too. And I'm going to law school. I'm going to a top 10 law school, University of Virginia Law School, top 10. I'm not, if I can't get into a top 10, then I'm not going to go. That was the conversation I had with myself. So this is awesome what you're saying. Continue. Love it.
So following medical school, I decided to go to Washington University in St. Louis, which is also another top program for medicine. And when I went there, when I moved to St. Louis from Houston and I started my, official first year as a medical doctor with the initials MD behind my name, then it hit me that what I did to get to becoming a doctor was not going to work for me moving forward. And I say that because when I found out that I was going to Washington University in St. Louis, that was the first time that I realized that not only was I a doctor, but now I was a Black doctor who was a woman, and I was the only Black woman in an entire incoming class of more than 40 people. And not only that, I was the only Black woman doctor in the entire program of more than 120 people. So I was in a situation where I felt like if I was going to continue to make it, not only did I need more support, because I also felt like I had to prove that I was worthy of my spot in this place. Which meant that I needed to have even more people to connect with, because I needed people to advocate for me behind closed doors without me knowing.
Let's stop. That's very crucial. And this goes back to me saying you need to impress people, because stuff happens behind closed doors. And I know for me, I know that on 2 separate occasions, something happened behind closed doors. I was in no way supposed to get anything, but behind closed doors, somebody said, I'm not giving it to that person. The man in charge, I want to give it to Angela Ray. Same thing happened behind closed doors. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when when it's going to hit, when the gift is, when, God's sending something for you that is just going to be mind blowing. But always know things are happening behind closed doors. So continue to work your plan your work, and be on that journey. Okay, go ahead, Dominique.
And so this goes back to your point too, where impressions matter. So I knew that just by default, even if I did not want any light shined upon me, it was already there, being the only Black woman. So it was very important for me to put my best foot forward at all times. And I'm not going to lie, there are times where we all have bad days. We're tired. We're overworked. Yes. But it was not okay for me to just say, I'm tired. I'm overworked. I don't want to do this. That was just not an option for me. And I'm not saying it, I don't want to focus too much on, differences of being a Black woman, or a Black person in medicine, at least right at this point, because I think this is, everyone can use this, but it's always important to remember that, once you make an impression, it's hard to get rid of that first impression. And that first impression will go wherever you go. And you cannot make an impression upon people by telling them, I'm the best, I'm the most brilliant, I'm this, I'm that. You don't make an impression upon people by your words. You have to act it out. And so
tell them. Preach, girl.
It's true. I had an intern the other day, and they asked me, this is really truly happened a couple weeks ago. They said, well, how do I make a good impression as a doctor? And I told them the same way you make a bad impression. The exact same way.
That's great. That is great advice.
So, and I just, even to this day, I remind myself that my actions are everything. My actions are everything. Because even if I don't know what to do next, if I can make a good impression and people can look at me and have positive things to say, then someone that God will put in my life, put in my path to come and help me get to that next step.
Word up. Word up.
And so that's,
that's hallelujah, that one.
That's what I've learned. But I got through residency, and I went on to do advanced training and become a cardiologist. And it was a very difficult journey.
Wait, yeah. I don't want to gloss over this part at all, because I remember, girl, when I was at University of Texas, my freshman year, I remember I called your uncle, and I'm like, ooh, I think I'm supposed to be a doctor and help people. He's like, do you remember that I did your chemistry homework for you? I was like, okay, I'll major in business. Girl, I wanted to be a doctor, because for me, this is the ultimate gift God can give someone, is the ability to heal. And you know what? That's just not my talent, but it's yours, and I'm happy to know you. So continue.
That is so funny, because I tell my patients the exact opposite.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I tell them that, this is how I look at medicine. Because I do believe in God. I don't have the ability to heal necessarily. God has the ability to heal, but God has given me the intelligence and the knowledge to use what is available to help to heal you or to help you.
That's
but
right.
At the end of the day,
that's right.
Your healing is not going to come from me. I'm just an agent of delivery.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you for putting that better than the way I did. Yes, that's
right. Why I tell people. I'm like, take your medicines and pray. Okay,
that's it.
Because I'm not God.
Well,
okay?
And I remember when I went in the hospital in 2018. Whatever. My blood count was so low. Doctor, the hospitalist. Who was like Dr. House, if you ever watched him.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved him so much. He was just ridiculous. He said to me, hey, are you fine with blood transfusions? And I said to him, I am a Christian who believes that God created doctors, medicine, etc., to help make my life better. So
right.
Yeah, he was like so happy. Oh, good. Yeah.
Right. And that's how I feel. But I'm not going to lie, things are hard. Training was very hard on me, because I became very aware that I was, a Black woman. And I even had a patient tell me one time, and it took me back, because I think she meant it as a compliment, but I was just so shocked that I could not take it as a compliment. But, she just had surgery on her heart. We put in a new valve. And she told me, before she went home, you're the best Negro doctor I've ever had.
I just need us to pause for 1 second, because the word Negro was used in the year of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, 2022. And okay, see, this is, people don't know what we go through. But so here's the thing, Dominique, what I need you to do is explain to people, okay, so I spent 4 years at University of Houston. Then I went and did however many years of med school.
3 years at Baylor College of Medicine, medical school. Then I turned around and I did 3 years of internal medicine residency at Washington University in St. Louis to become an internist. Then I did 1 year as a chief resident at Washington University in St. Louis.
Congratulations.
Which is a prestigious, position. It's only a select few. And then I turned around and did 3 additional years of cardiology training at Washington University in St. Louis. So from the time that I graduated high school to the time where I was finally done with all of my training, we are talking 15 years.
So understand this. After high school, she understood that her education, she decided what she wanted to do and the type of doctor she wanted to become. And she was willing to put the time in. It took her 15 years, which means other parts of her life might have been on hold. Yes. A lot of times your personal life is on hold for that long. But it was important that she have this journey, and it is important that she had this journey because we need more Black women in the healthcare profession.
Yeah, so definitely. And that was one of the things that I struggled with during, because you're studying to become a doctor. The majority of my time was spent studying, learning. And, we're talking, most of this is in my 20s. So this is prime time of life for a lot of people, having fun, being single, traveling, people were getting married, having babies, all of these things. And I felt for a while that I was quote unquote behind. I did not have I was not working. I wasn't getting a W-2 for the longest. I was, taking out student loans at some point, to help just with daily expenses, because you study for 8 hours a day and then you're in the hospital for 8 hours a day, and so it was, at some times I would be like, what, is this even worth it?
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
And not only that, but like a little bit of imposter syndrome too. Am I even capable of doing this? Am I going to fail at this? Am I wasting my time? Should I just walk away now before I have so much invested and go do something else that I know that I can do, you know?
So what I'm hearing right now is that you powerfully connect with yourself. And this is something that we have to do. If anybody listening to us, you have
to, because there were so many times, especially the further I got along, and especially when I started training and I was working, 80 hours, sometimes more than that a week, just asking myself, especially in the age of social media, where you work those long hours and then you scroll on Instagram and you see people living, living the life, and you're just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And why am I doing it? And what's my purpose here? And so I had to have a lot of tough conversations with myself. And then when I would have comments like the best Negro doctor, then it would leave me conflicted.
Except like, you belong where you are. She doesn't belong where you are.
But it was like, wait, is that like, it's almost like you feel like you continue to have to prove yourself no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
no matter how many degrees, no matter who you trained under, no matter all of that stuff, it's still this. And so, can you tell me, like, where did you first practice?
So after I finished my training, I actually stayed on as faculty at WashU. They asked me to stay on at Washington University in St. Louis. So I was there for 3 years. I just switched, and I actually came back to Baylor College of Medicine as faculty not too long ago. Oh. But I stayed on at Washington University in St. Louis. So technically that was my first practice as an attending outside of training.
Wow. And so, when people think of someone becoming a doctor, what we have to understand is when you are, if it's something other, and correct me, if it's something other than like internal medicine, it's a specialty. And if you are interested in a specialty like heart, gastro, OBGYN, you will have additional training. Correct. And as Dominique is pointing out, you will be in a situation where you're scrolling through social media and you're like, oh, and you will have this thing, but please know that whatever is posted on social media, we don't know. I mean, it all, you know what I'm saying? It's all, I don't know.
Right. You have to remind yourself that one, social media is not actually reality for the most part. Thank you. And number two, there's a term that we use amongst ourselves in medicine, and it's called delayed gratification. And that's what we just keep telling ourselves. We're practicing delayed gratification. It's the only way to make it a little bit better, because it does get better, but you have to go through the trenches. Yeah. And there's no way around it. You cannot skip through the process. You have to go through the trenches.
Do you feel respected now?
Oh, 100%.
And let me ask you this. How long did it take for you to feel respected?
So that's actually a very interesting question. Because there's two answers to that. One is the reality, meaning, the actual reality. And then one is my reality.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
And the reality of it is, I believe I was respected early on in my career. And I mean, like, as when I became a doctor. And I say this based on feedback that I would get from my colleagues and my attendings, nurses, everyone who worked with me. When I started to feel respected wasn't until maybe 10, 12 years into being a doctor. Wow. And that is because I finally came to the resolution and the peace within myself that I belong here, that I am worthy of being here, and I am just as capable, if not more than capable, than my colleagues.
How did your colleagues treat you? Were they nice to you? Did you have good relationships?
They were all very nice. They were all very nice, and they would always say things like, "Oh my goodness, you're so smart. Oh my goodness, like you're such a hard worker. The patients love you." Like, of course, like it was, I received glowing comments, but it didn't matter because I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it myself. So I would say things like, someone would, say, "Oh, you're such a hard worker," or "You're so smart." And my response to that would be, "Oh, it's not that hard. You could do it too. You just have to do this." So constantly minimizing myself.
And not giving yourself the credit that you deserve.
Correct.
And allowing other people to recognize your credit. And this is what I had to work on, is accepting compliments from other people. Because, sometimes, anyway.
And no. And that's what it was. And it wasn't until recently that now I can say that, and without trying to minimize it, just accept it and pat myself on the back and be like, "Yep, that's true."
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. We have to cheer ourselves on. I don't count on anybody else cheering me on. Girl, I'll be in there working out, dying. And I'll be like, "Go, Ray, you got this."
It's true. We have to.
You do.
And we have to.
And if you are someone who, you feel like you're lacking in self-confidence and you need other people to validate you, work on this. This will be a problem for you. You have to really come to love yourself and to know yourself and to cheer yourself on. I'm my biggest cheerleader, and I don't care if somebody thinks that's vain or that's whatever. No, you're just a hater. I know haters all my life. All your life, you've known haters. But what I know I've done is I followed the path that was lit for me. There was a journey, there was a path, and there were lights along the way. And I talk about this with you guys before. Please do not waste your time, because it is so precious, making poor choices. If you listen to Dominique's story, it is a story of making great choices even at an early age. This isn't like, "Oh, I'm an adult, thus I need to learn how to make good choices." No, I was a child who was going through stuff, who had to learn how to make good choices.
Right.
You are in that position. Continue to pause for cause. Don't jump into something. If you jump into something and it seems like it was the wrong thing, that's okay. Guess what? Something else is for you. But don't give up.
Right.
Pursue you, whatever that is. Pursue you.
Right.
Let me ask you this, because I was in the hospital 3 times up here in the Pacific Northwest. Never saw a Black doctor. I ended up having one Black nurse. And when I said something to her about it, she laughed so loud, I think we woke up the whole hospital. But I mean, this is crazy. And the only time I saw somebody Black was maybe when they took my blood. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I mentioned it in my job too. Because somebody was mentioning something about the nurses. I said, "Ain't nobody Black," which is just weird. I don't understand that.
I don't, I don't understand it either, but it's true. In some ways, I do understand it. And part of that is because, we, as Black people, I think a lot of us think that certain things are beyond our reach.
Absolutely.
And so
this is why we're doing this podcast. This is exactly why. And
that's what I've learned. Because even when I talk to people in the hospital that are Black women, nurses, not even nurses, some techs, like taking your blood pressure, things like that. And it's almost like the dreaming stops at becoming a tech. And it's like, there's no reason why you can't do what I'm doing. And I tell people all the time, I'm not a unicorn, so to speak. The only difference is that I listened and I moved and I did the hard work, even when I didn't want to.
And that may make you a unicorn.
It may make me a unicorn, but what I'm saying is that there is, I don't feel like there's anything in my DNA that makes me, I can do this more so than you can.
Right.
if God can show me favor, God can show you favor.
That's right. Preach.
But you have to you have to do your part. It's not just going to be thrown in front of you.
To do your part. Mm-hmm. This whole, manna from heaven's coming, I'm just going to wait. No. Mm-hmm. He expects you to do your part. And guess what? If you've been working and it hadn't hit yet, guess what? You just got something else to do. Keep on working at it. Keep on working at it, because your season will come.
Right.
He had me laid out telling me I had to wait 3-4 years for something. I was laid out. I'm like, I can't, why are you doing it? You got to wait. You got to be patient.
Right.
Because and I talk about this podcast specifically, that this podcast was birthed out of me being patient and faithful to the Almighty. And it is, I am so happy about this podcast because we are trying to help people. And the point is to bring people on like Dominique so that millennials and others who will be looking to find professions that they think that they can gel with, you need to know the journey. And what I want to impress upon folks is do not give up. I went to college for 4 years. Then I went to law school for 3 years. Okay. I hate school or whatever. No, you don't hate school. Never hate learning.
Right. Right.
And find, God gave everybody a talent. Every last one of us. See, Dominique I can't do what she does. I wanted to be able to, but that's not what God gave as my gift. So we all have gifts. Don't hate on her because she's been successful at her gift, or me. Let's just focus on you and making the right choices, because everything I'm hearing from out of her mouth, it has to do with the choices that she made, and has to do with the fact that she made correct choices. Ears open, eyes open, ready to move. That's another thing. Ready to move. I just want to stay in Texas. I just want to stay in Arizona. Why? Move so that you can see what life is like. We are citizens of the world. Y'all know I say this all the time. I'm a citizen of the world. She's a citizen of the world. We move around. We move.
Yeah. And it's definitely scary. It's definitely scary.
Yes.
It may not seem like it when people are looking from the outside in, but it's definitely scary. But, that's when you just have to have faith that there's a purpose for this. I may not know what it is now, but it'll show itself in due time. Like there's a purpose and there's a plan. And that's the other thing, as I am growing in my faith and I'm learning, is that not only is there a purpose and there's a plan, but if I walk in my purpose, like that's when blessings will continue to flow. And so sometimes when things don't work out in my favor, it's not because I necessarily didn't deserve them, but it wasn't for me.
That's right.
It was not for me.
But let's be happy for the person it was for.
Right, exactly. And so that's how I've changed my prayer. I pray now, Lord, if it is not for me, please remove it.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to spend my energy focusing on something that is not. And I say that because in my career right now, I have goals and aspirations that I would like to do, but I don't want to get caught up in doing something that is not for me.
That's right.
That is not for me. And along this journey, I want to say, even going back to an early age, this was not something that was easy for me to do. I came from a household where my parents were divorced when I was 6 years old, and my mother was an alcoholic and died in her early 50s from alcoholism. And there was, a lot of things that I experienced as a child. So I was navigating all of these things in a background of chaos. And so it was hard sometimes. Oftentimes. To be quiet and listen.
Yes.
Let alone quiet, listen, and move to a different state.
Right.
Knowing the chaos that was left behind in Texas.
Yeah. Thank you for making yourself vulnerable and talking about that, because
I'm sorry,
No,
but
because a lot
I
of
feel
us,
like I needed to say it and that's why
right.
I tell people I'm not a unicorn. Like it's, I didn't grow up in a Cosby household, but I just listened, and I somehow in my youth and my being naive just listened and moved.
Look, um, my life was similar. And so I know that there are a lot of us out there who, as Dominique said, we didn't grow up in the Cosby household. My parents too were divorced. I was probably 3 when they got divorced, whatever. But yes, chaos, in the house. And the one thing I always knew, and anybody who is listening to this, who is young and you feel like you need some support, just know that what you need to focus on is your career right now, which is going to school. Just go to school, get good grades, get involved in after school activities. Things will get better. I promise you, Dominique promises you, we understand what it is like to live in chaos and to come out of it successfully, because that is the hard part. Sometimes coming out of it successfully. And we want to encourage you and let you know that God has a plan for you. And you just keep the faith, baby. Keep the faith. Something my dad always used to say, keep the faith, cat. I'm telling you what my dad said, keep the faith, cat, and believe in yourself and know that you are powerful and you are strong and you are needed and your voice is needed. Please know that.
Yeah, definitely. And I used to, now that I look back on it, I didn't realize it at this time, and I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologize for talking about something that we need to talk about.
But I'm so sorry. But part of it, and I thank God for this, but I think early on, a way of me escaping the chaos, I used to just study and read.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen to what Dominique just said. That is exactly what I would do. And I became so intelligent, vocabulary out in 2nd grade, what? You want to spell excellent? Just that, what I try to tell, this is your one job. Just focus on this. I understand stuff is going on at home. I understand we got to navigate it. Look, we didn't have any lights in my house. You know what? My window in my room, there was a light from the street. And I used to stick my book out the window and get my lesson, because I wasn't going to let anything get in the way. Because I'm telling you, if you do well in school, you are off and running. Don't let yourself get distracted. I know it is hard. You should not have to go through this. Dominique should not have had to go through what she had to go through. Same for me. You shouldn't have to. But sometimes we are given a journey for a purpose, because we can handle it. And because I'm willing to make myself vulnerable for other people. Dominique is willing as well. And everyone is not like that. And because we are like that, sometimes that means you might go through something a little extra, because you're going to need to help others as they go through things. And I like helping others. That's part of my job. That's part of Dominique's job. We understand that. Right. I just can't thank you enough for just really leaning into being a part of this podcast, and the folks that we are trying to get to, millennials and other young people. You have just been a source of inspiration. Girl, you brought me to tears. I am a big old crybaby.
Well, it's so funny, and I'll share something with you. When you approached me with this podcast, and I had actually, there's been something in me lately as well. And I have been trying to not only bring people to Christ, but also trying to figure out, okay, like what else is my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so funny because I have been praying on that for a while. And then you mentioned this podcast, and my prayer is that this will touch somebody, even if it's just one person. And that God will use you and this podcast to touch multiple people, to let them know that, you are not alone. You are, God has not abandoned you. Even if you don't know him, he has not abandoned you. He's still there with you, and that there is a purpose and there is a plan for your life. And a lot of times we have to tune out the chaos, reach deep down, and continue just to put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And it will be hard, but you're not going to die. Okay. Because that's the other thing I've learned too. If God said this is my purpose, then that's it. Like and he's going to protect me. Now I may go through a lot of stuff on the way, but I'm going to get to the other side.
Right.
I truly believe that. And, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. But that's definitely because the devil will create chaos to distract us. That's exactly what it is. That's his job. Is to distract us. And so, and there have been times that I have become distracted. And every single time that has happened and I have let the chaos in my life become distracted, I can always tell because another part falls behind.
Yes.
Not as productive in an area.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't hear God. I feel like I don't hear you anymore because I'm doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's,
thank you, Dominique. I appreciate you praying over this podcast and what we want others to get out of this podcast. And I just think it's really important that we have more doctors of color, in particular Black doctors. I had to sort of get on the hospital my second visit there in 2020. I had a roommate who had pancreatitis, and literally she hit the button every 5 minutes because she was in pain. I didn't. And every now and then I would hit the button and need something, and I couldn't get anybody to show up. So I had to say, hey, I know all about implicit bias in the healthcare profession. So I don't know if it's because I'm Black and you don't think but somebody better show up because I got a mouth.
So that is true. That is very implicit bias. Some of it is not even implicit. It's just bias.
It's just bias.
is definitely 100% real. And we do need more doctors of color. We need more women, and we need more Black people, period, right, in health and sciences.
Yes.
And not only that, but this is too, if I can encourage, young people as well, that there's so much in medicine that if you don't want to be a doctor, fine. There is so much in medicine, even things that I have learned about within the past 5 years that I didn't even know existed in medicine.
See, this right here, this is what's important for people to know the different careers that can come out of majoring in biology or chemistry. You might go into research. Lord knows we need people in the R&D, research and development. You may decide to become an instructor. Dominique has been an instructor before, in addition to all the other things. So, how about this one? You may decide to be a journalist who covers science, who covers heart disease, whatever. So there's so much you can do. I became an Associated Award-winning television news anchor. I don't have a journalism degree. I don't have a communications degree, but I know how to communicate, and I know how to write a story, and I know how to give a damn.
Right.
So it all kind of worked out.
Right.
So sometimes what you have majored in, you may feel like I'm rudderless. I don't know what to do. Just know my first job, I was a financial analyst for Allstate. And, that was my undergraduate degree. I was a finance and international business. I did a double major. But my friends who were in the, what division is that? In the underwriting division, they had English degrees. They had, it didn't need to have an insurance degree because what the heck is that? So just as I'm thinking about, what folks are majoring in college, and, I'm talking to a young lady who lives here in the Pacific Northwest. To me, she's about to go to my alma mater, University of Texas at Austin, and just talking to her about her career and her path. And it's just important for us to have relationships with younger folks and to guide them because, they think it's one way because we did too. Girl, we knew it was one way and it's another. So
so many paths.
So many. And that's why, again, this is our first time speaking with Dominique, but it won't be our last time speaking with her. Because, the whole medical field and the sciences, I just want you guys to be fully aware that this is a woman who has spent 15 years of her life to make sure any of us who come in her presence with a heart problem, that she knows how to do it. She says scalpel and she's ready to go.
Well, not quite the scalpel, but
okay. What is the first thing you say? Making incision. I watch too much TV. I watch all the medical shows.
No, because I don't do surgery, so I'm non-invasive. That's a whole different. That's a whole different category as well. Oh my! But I will bring my echo machine, and I will take some pictures of your heart, and then tell them that they need to get the scalpel ready. But
okay, so you're the first stop. So
I'm the first stop. I'm the first stop. I'm the gateway.
That's awesome.
So, and that's what I mean. It's just so much in medicine that you don't even realize. It's so many things to do in medicine.
So looky here. If any of you out there listening and you are curious and want more information, hit me up on my social media. And I will let Dominique know that there are folks interested. It's important that we mentor people, that we mentor young men and women, and give them hope. And we need to uplift Black kids right now. We just do. There's just a lot of Look, another reason I started this podcast is because I'm a positive person and I want to have positive people on. And I was talking to somebody about the podcast and they were like, Angela, your podcast is needed because it's positive. There's so much negativity in this world and I'm a journalist and I have to tune it out. I remember yesterday, last night, it was some news. I was like, no, I'm not putting any more of that in my spirit. It's just like you have to take care of yourself. Unplug from all these devices and stop looking at everything on social media. Please stop looking at all that stuff. Quit thinking everybody's life is better than your life. It ain't. We all got the same. We all got trials and tribulations. We all want to be loved, but we got, life is tough.
Right.
But I've had so many people say to me, one person, I want to be married. I mean, I look at all the people on, girl, I've been married. That wasn't what I needed to be doing. Pause for cause. Back up. Because when you want to keep up with the Joneses, that's when you've lost your way.
Yes.
Because now you're not thinking about, what do I need to do? What is my passion? What is the gift that I've been given to help make the world a better place? Now you're trying to be Dominique.
You're distracted.
You're distracted.
Yep. And
that gets you in trouble.
And that's what the devil wants.
That's what the devil wants.
You're distracted.
Every day of the week, twice
so as long as you're distracted, then you're not going to live in your purpose.
That's it. That's it. And living in your purpose is why we are here, because we are not here for long. We just aren't. When I look at where I am now, I'm like, wait a minute, well, when did that happen? Yeah, it happens quickly. It's just like kids grow. What? You're in college already?
Yeah, I know.
You're just a little baby.
That's how I feel. I'm like, I'm getting old.
No, you're not. No.
But the thing is, and this is the other thing too, I've learned, if you're going to be on social media, because I do realize that that's a huge thing nowadays, I had to change what I looked at on social media. So instead of me looking at what people are going on vacation and things like that, I had to change to look at things more positive, or look at things that can actually help me. So I actually follow a lot of medical, accounts and what's new, what's going on in medicine, uplifting stuff, how to manage time, things like that. So I had to learn how to use a tool that can be very distracting and cause chaos and use it to my advantage.
Please tell me that you heard what she just said. Oh my goodness. That is so needed. I check out. She is saying, no, I decided to change my behavior. See, we have that option to change our behavior ourselves. And that's what she did. She was like, wait a minute, I'm doing this to myself. Let me look at this a different way. And let me use this differently, use this product, this platform differently. Boy, all good stuff, Dominique.
So,
girl, I'm going to have you on here always.
I just, life is a journey and I'm learning as I go and I am willing to share what I learned. So that's just learning. I make mistakes. I learn from my mistakes and I try not to do it again. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. It's really been great talking to you about.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. I really appreciate your vulnerability and you understanding that we're not doing a podcast where we're interviewing movie stars and we're wasting our time with that crap. No, this is important. This podcast is to help others and to bring people like Dominique into our world so that we have this positive, beautiful Black woman to help guide us. That's what she's done today. She's helped to guide us. I know she's helped to guide me. Me getting choked up it is very difficult for folks to talk about their difficulties. And I get it. I'm someone who doesn't mind talking about it because I want to help someone else. And Dominique obviously was the same way. And that just really touched my soul because that's hard. Making yourself vulnerable is hard because you don't know, people going to be making fun of you. I don't care. I'm here doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You're there doing what you're supposed to be doing. What you doing? Worrying about what I'm doing. That's just.
And, not only that, because, I used to be very embarrassed about it. And
embarrassed about what?
About how I grew up, the things that were going on. Extremely embarrassed. Like zip, it's kind of like, what they say, you don't tell people about what's going on in your house. So everything's going to look picture perfect.
Yep.
And it wasn't until later on in my adult life, within the past 10 years, that I started to talk about it. And now I realize that even then, the stuff that I went through, I needed to get me to where I am today. And once I became okay with that and realized that through the midst of that, even though it was tough, I learned to develop strength. I learned to develop, perseverance and endurance. And so I can somewhat take something that was negative and make it into positive. And it has made it so that I am able to talk about it freely. I mean, it's still a little bit emotional, but I'm able to at least speak about it and not try to act like that part of my life doesn't exist.
Amen, sister. Amen. It's funny. Like, I think I was talking to my best friend once and I told him something about my childhood and he just listened and he said, I never press you about this. I know that when you're ready, you'll tell me whatever it is you want to tell me. And I'm fortunate that my significant other is the same way. And, sometimes, it'll hit me and I'll just go sit on the floor and kind of grab his leg and just cry for a second. Or sometimes I'll go in the closet, close the door, cry for a second. Come on. All right. You all right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. Quit feeling whatever that is. But you know what? if you're feeling that kind of way, let yourself have your moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's human. We're not sitting here acting like we're superhuman at all. Please know that is the antithesis of what we're saying.
Yeah, definitely.
What we're saying is we pushed through very difficult circumstances at an age when that's not what you should have to do.
Right.
So we didn't ask to have to grow up as quickly as we did, but we also didn't run away from it. We said, okay, back to how can I make this work best for me? What am I looking toward? Angela, keep looking toward that. That right over there is your future without any of this crap. Right. And keeping my eye there has just been the most miraculous thing I've ever done. And everything continues to flow. And when I say flow, I don't mean there ain't problems. I don't mean I haven't had money issues or the love issues or, it's life.
Right. Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
But we're two folks saying we came out of it. You can come out of it. Keep your focus. Keep your faith. When I've got a lot going on in my life, I find that I don't necessarily need to work on a romantic relationship. I need to work on myself because I got to take care of myself, provide for myself financially, and keep my mental health in good shape and continue to give and be joyous to the world. This joy is for the world. What you're doing, saving people's lives, that's for the world. That's amazing. You can go anywhere in this world and save somebody's life. I can go anywhere in this world and bring my joy with me. My greetings and salutations. Come on, everybody. Give me a hug. That's what I can bring to the table. You can actually save your life. So it's a little bit.
All of our gifts are needed.
That's right.
All of our gifts are needed.
Dr. Dominique Williams, thank you so much for joining the Power to Connect today, for showing us how to connect powerfully in so many different ways. Congratulations on all of your success. And thank you for being real and genuine, because if you weren't, you would not be a part of the Power to Connect. So
I know that's
high five.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. I enjoyed it.
You take good care. We'll talk to you soon, doctor.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Power to Connect with Angela Ray and follow her on Facebook. You can also stay connected on Twitter and Instagram at angelaray.com.